Peace and love to humanity and the conscious community. It's Sunny Sharma back with another video. Today is July 4th, and I kind of have a very interesting video to make today. It's about, the title of this video is going to be John Adams and the number 2. And John Adams is very significant as a character during the American Revolution and after, as well as his significance tied to the number 2. And he was a man who was one of the most involved people during the American Revolution. And he's kind of understated and under-recognized. And also his astrology is very close to mine, actually. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts, just like me. And he carries a lot of the same energy that I do, even though he was a Virgo and I'm an Aquarius, a very intelligent Virgo. And so why is the number 2 significant? So there are many cultures all around the world that see the number 2 as being very, very significant, especially the notion, because why this is important is because John Adams and Abigail Adams were twin flames. They were counterparts to one another, and they worked together to not only exude many of the values of that time period, but to help to strive towards equality, liberty, and fraternity, especially equality during the American Revolution. And so, why is the number 2 important? Well, the number 2 in all cultures, it takes 2 people to tango. And really, in all cultures, there's this notion of companionship. And how is this notion expressed? Let me give you 3 cultures as an example. For my culture as an Indian, we have the notion of namaste. I recognize you as I recognize the soul in myself, because I recognize your soul because I recognize the soul in myself. And this phrase is similar in South Africa with Mabutu, because Mabutu is the same notion of namaste. That it's slightly different in that I exist because I exist through your eyes. And the third example I want to use is from Confucianism, which is the idea of benevolence in Chinese philosophy. Which, if you actually look at the symbol for benevolence, it is a 2 attached to another symbol. And so this is important. I want to dedicate this video to John Adams because John Adams was the highest representation of the number 2 throughout his life. And this can be seen in many ways, which I'll describe. First off, he was a father to John Quincy Adams, who became one of the presidents of the United States. He was a husband and twin flame to Abigail Adams, who he worked closely with. He was a close friend and adversary, and intellectual adversary and combatant to Thomas Jefferson. Moreover, he was also the vice president to George Washington, and I believe he was also the vice president to someone else. So you see that in many ways, John Adams was representing this number 2, working, he helped his son become one of the best presidents in U.S. history, in my opinion. He worked closely with Abigail Adams to imbue the ideas of equality. He was an intellectual rival to Thomas Jefferson. Granted, today is July 4th, the Independence Day, and both Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died on the same day, as an ode to the to American independence and to some notion of the ideals of American exceptionalism being achievable at some point in history. And George Washington, of course, he was his vice president. And John Adams wasn't just so also in being number 2, he was the vice presidential candidate. He kind of shows that he was the closest kind of accessory to these individuals. accessory maybe is a light term, but he kind of he complimented these individuals, including George Washington, and in many ways he was very frustrated throughout his life because he tried to make change, and many of the people, especially when he was a diplomat in Europe during the American Revolution, and because he was a diplomat, he was one of the most active members of the American Revolution, he met a lot of opposition. For example, if you watch the show John Adams, you know, when he was talking to the Dutch bankers, many of the Dutch bankers did not want to give a loan to America during the American Revolution. And he's met much opposition in trying to in trying to help the American Revolution. And so, is there anything else I can say? I think that's good enough for now. So John Adams was the greatest representation of the number 2, especially as being, I must emphasize this, as being the twin flame to Abigail Adams. And Abigail Adams was also a very significant figure during the American Revolution because she emphasized the equality of all women, you know, even though this was not achievable. And this is what we must do in our society, you know. Once we overcome the conflicts and challenges of our societies and days and times, we must achieve equality for all people and not just men. Even though the American Revolution exalted equality for men, we must exalt equality for all people, just as John Adams wanted, and just as his twin flame Abigail Adams wanted, more so than anything. So I thank you for listening, and I hope we can meet again in the future. Peace, love, and brotherhood. Bye.